Good morning. We are continuing our review of the conclusion of Hemshech Ayin Beis via the essay that I wrote. And we are on page 27, did I say? Yeah, I think it's, let me see here.
26.
26. Yeah, 26, sorry. Yeah, 26. It's the middle of chapter 5 of the 7-part essay. And yesterday, we're in the middle of the Oid HaRiyah, the connection of Riyah, vision, eyesight, to Torah Oid. As the Rebbe Rashab begins, v'nidali levayir, but she begins a long explanation understanding Torah Oid in contrast and context with Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam and Ner Mitzvah, with understanding vision. And briefly, that the eyesight is a Oid HaMakabel, because once the faculty of vision manifests within the physical eye, it needs to be makabel, a siyua, support from an outside light to see in the dark. On the other hand, the etzem koyach hariyah, which is in the nefesh, before it manifests in the kalim, that doesn't have these limits, but you can't access that. That's why we need the light. The light is what Torah and their mitzvah for that matter, and the malachim, and the Einei Ha'eda, as we've been learning. But once the eye is triggered to see, then the eye itself sees. It's not dependent on the light, ultimately. In our case, in Aveda, obviously in the physical sense, if you shut off the lights in the dark room, the eye will stop seeing. But in the nimshal, it's the neshama that comes inside the body. That's the oyer inside the keli, the body, and the animal soul. So the neshama, though it's rooted like an etzem koyach hariyah in the highest levels, but once it comes into this world darkens it. Shcheirani, I am dark. And therefore the neshama needs Torah, oyer, and the other forces of a siyua, of support, to illuminate the path, how to live your life. And once the neshama accesses that, then the neshama elevates step by step all the way to the highest levels, even higher than Torah to the Ma'ir, like we discussed and we reviewed yesterday. And furthermore, that the point that our eyes will see like the sun and the moon. What does that mean? That they will actually see on their own. Just like the sun shines on its own. The moon requires the sun, but like you explained, so that there are levels in this. So the eyes will see on their own. And furthermore, they will actually illuminate the Torah and be mamshich from Atzmus into Torah Ed. And it's the whole Seder Shtalshus for that matter. That's briefly the story. Now, in this itself, there's clearly levels, like we learned. There's the level of Shema Yisrael. The neshama begins with Shmiya. That itself can be a Shmiya, deeper Shmiya, where it's a Shmiya Pnimius, to the point that it's almost like seeing. Then there's the level of Matan Torah, where Shmiya and Riyah become like one. And then there's a level that it reaches Atzmus, where the whole thing is all equal mamish, because Atzmus is higher than all these levels. We'll soon see how that fits into the pasuk, the Tefillah Nishmas, where all this is hinted to, as the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe explain in the Maimer Ve'inenu Me'ires. Okay, so that's a short review of what is that. Now, the key point is that much of this, even though you could piece it together from Hemshech Ayin Beis, but the Rebbe Rashab never returns. After he speaks at length about Riyah, about vision, he then goes back to the Maimer of Hamagbil Shavis, of Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, the three elements of the wick, the oil, and the fire, and the light. Then he speaks about how that applies in mitzvahs, but then he goes into Holy Zbananus of Shema Yisrael, of Yichud Tata, Yichud Elah, and the Yichud of both Yichudim. And that's where the Hemshech ends. So the Rebbe Rashab never returns to the initial point of Tereh, the Nirali Levayir, Alpi, the Inyan of Erari, he never connects it all. But when you look into the Maimer Hamagbil Shavis, where he connects Tereh to Riyah, and then the Maimer Ve'inenu Me'iris, where he elaborates, you see it all come together literally that I would even say that it's like, even though I have to say yesh lemer, that you could say it, but to me it's as obvious that that would be the Rebbe Rashab's connection because it says it almost explicitly in those Maimorim, though the Rebbe Rashab never had the opportunity to put it down in writing. So that's the story there. So then we went on, let me just see. What else did we cover here? Then here's Saneshama by the Tere Er. Yeah. So we are now up to the top of page 26, middle of page 26. We're in the fourth paragraph. Now, I had a few questions that were asked to me by Rabbi Yitzchak by text, so I'll just respond to that, if I may. They're relevant questions, so they fit into the picture here. So, the question one was why I didn't focus on the Yud. The Mashpili, he says, that doesn't just say Hamashpil Lires B'Shamayim Mevar, it says Hamashpili. And the Yud indicates an Atzmus. I didn't talk about it because it says it in the Maimer. I don't go through everything that says in the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer. I give the Maimer Kamis and everyone can look it up. And you can see it. That's the reason I didn't mention. So a lot of things I haven't mentioned that are in the original Maimer, and being that you have the page numbers, feel free to look it up. And if you want, you can post Rabbi Yitzchak whatever you found in ChatGPT that elaborates on what that Yud indicates. So we just read it briefly that the Yud indicates a higher level that's higher than Shemayim and Aretz, that unites Teresh B'Ksav and Teresh B'Alpeh, and all the way, reaching all the way into Atzmus Baruch. Like he said here on page, I think it was on page 25. Yeah. That was one question. Another question you asked was, let me see. What other questions were asked? If you remind me, I'll look it up, but let me see.
There was a reference to the neshama rising to the level of its source, the Helama Atzmi.
Yeah. That's explicit in Ayin Beis. Helama Atzmi is the highest level, where he calls it Helama Atzmi, Shmaya Atzmi, higher than Teira. So that's the expression in Ayin Beis.
But I never remember an Ayin Beis that the neshama, even La'asi level, reaches an elevation to let me put more specifically, that the
Well, it says it
source.
explicitly a few times. As a matter of fact, I gave a whole bunch of sources. In that essay, I think I gave 4 different sources for it. Okay.
How do we reconcile that with other places in Ayin Beis where we learn that the root, the source of the neshama is a tachton shel?
That's the Helam Atzmi.
Okay, that answers that. There was a third question: elevation of Chabas of Malchus over Chagas of Zah.
Yeah, Chagas of Zah is like the Shemesh, the sun. Chabad of Malchus is like the Levana, and ultimately the Levana will rise higher for like the sun, and then it will be even greater than the sun. I thought I explained that yesterday.
You may have said it that way, but we didn't discuss the Kabbalah.
Okay,
so I didn't make the connection.
Didn't go into the Kabbalah either because Zah and Malchus is generally Mashpia, Makabel, sun and moon.
Mm-hmm.
That's the general picture.
Yeah, no. Thank you. So easy for you to answer. So complicated for me to begin to understand. Okay.
Fine.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now let's continue on page 26. We're in the third paragraph, like I said. Let me get there. Give me a minute. I'm just scrolling there. There we are. Okay.
I actually have a question, but I will wait until you will finish this time.
Okay. So the last paragraph we learned was the language from the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, There will be like a Atzmi, a moyer, the level of moyer. Shemer ma'asme blishum kabbalah muzulase. That's Keshemesh Yireh Shlei Hefresh B'Neim Klal. Ali of Chabad, the Nukve Shlei Tekabla Filim Mechagaz the Zakim Shavin Mamish Vidal. Okay, so we're now talking about, just to clarify, we're talking about the process of elevation. It begins that we live in a dark world. Let's be very practical. We live in a dark world, just like we talked about Mutfe, Murgish, and Muskel. We begin our lives very much oriented about self interest oriented. And then we slowly grow. Torah is meant to illuminate the way, like we're learning Torah Eid, to direct and guide us. Mitzvahs is how we implement God's will in our lives. And the neshama is growing. As the neshama comes down below, it is in a darkened state, shcheirani, and the neshama grows. That's really what each of us is doing from day to day. Your neshama, your ner Hashem nishmas adam, which is a flame and has power, even on its own, as we learned. Shema Yisrael. You have the ability to contemplate on God's unity. Obviously, if you have Torah illuminating and teaching you with God's unity, which of course includes what we're learning here, Chassidus, is part of Torah Eir. Ayin Beis is part of Torah Shabbat Peh. So that helps the neshama grow, and that ultimately affects V'haftas Hashem Elokecha, that also the Yetzer Hara, B'chol Levavcha B'shnei Yitzarecha, the Nefesh Habam also loves God, and B'chol Levavcha, B'chol Nafshecha, B'chol Meidecha, Bli Gvul, all the levels we learned. But this process, slowly, using the example of the eye, the neshama being like the eye, but like the vision within the physical eye, like the neshama beguf, as it grows, the neshama's natural, inherent, and innate powers, which are rooted in the highest levels, come alive. And as they come alive more and more, they grow to the point, like we said, that the eye himself, meaning the neshama itself, could see, just like the shemesh gives off light, and initially the sun, the neshama needed the sunlight or Torah to illuminate it, it begins to see on its own. But, as we learned, there are many levels. So now we're going to go to the next level. From the Maimer Ve'eneinu Me'iris. What's the next level of the neshama's aliyah? V'yiseidim mizeh. So in paragraph 4, page 26 of the essay posted at Ayin Beis and on our Ayin Beis group in WhatsApp. V'yiseidim mizeh. And furthermore, and even greater than that, aliyah l'madrega shlishis. Now we're talking about a third level, which of course immediately reminds us of the three levels of Yechudim. Yechud Tata, Yechud Elah, and the Yechud of both Yechudim, which we'll discuss shortly. So Madrega Shlishis, as you see, it's a quote. Kain hu aloshen b'seif hadrush. That's the expression in the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, at the end of the Maimer, page 465. Ub'Maimer Admura Amtsoi, and in the discourse of the Mittler Rebbe, he calls aloshen hu aliyah hashlishi. He calls it the third elevation. So it's not it's just two different expressions. Madrega, third level, or third aliyah. Begimel b'chinas aliyas b'shemesh, where he talks about the three aliyahs in the sun. So there's the first level is that the eye is receiving the light, and to the point that it begins to see, even though initially it's like shmiyah. The shmiyah is affected by the riyah of Torah Er. The next level, it becomes equal, but now comes a third level. What's the third level? La'atzmus yizbarach. To the level of Atzmus. Shehu ha'moker u'lamayla gam shemesh v'yareach. When you say ve'neinu me'iris k'shemesh v'yareach, you're saying the eye initially cannot see without the light of the sun or the moon or the outside light of Torah Er. Now you're saying it reached the level it could see like the shemesh, it illuminates like the sun and the moon. But remember, there's a level higher. Who gave the sun and moon light in the first place? That's Atzmus. Even higher than the etzem koyach hariyah. So we're now reaching a third level. The second level is when this eye can see like the sun and the moon. Now we're talking about a level that's even higher than that, Atzmus, that created the very sun and moon, and even created the etzem koyach hariyah. That's how high the neshama elevates, because it's rooted in those levels, which is higher even than etzem koyach hariyah and shemesh yireach. Like we actually say in this tefillah. So in the tefillah nishmas, he says like this, that even if our eyes would shine like the sun and the moon, it's still l'chol levatcha anachnu meidim. Only to you alone do we acknowledge, do we say gratitude, do we thank. Why? L'cha la'atzmuscha, atzmus. U'lechein ein onu maspikim laheides l'cha kehemshech nusach hatfilah. That's why even if our eyes were to shine like the sun and the moon, there's still a higher level that we acknowledge and we say thank you. Moedim t'cha, atzmus. Ilu, this is the language from the Maimer. Ilu, even if the case was that that our eyes have elevated, that the eyes themselves are shining like the sun and the moon, which itself is already higher than the first level, higher than the eyes as they are today, that are dependent on the support from an outside of them. So even when we elevate to the level that the eye sees like the sun and the moon, nevertheless, we still don't have enough to acknowledge you. Al achas me'elef alofim v'ribu revovis pomim hateves, one in tens of thousands, and in me'elef alofim, which is tens of thousands, and then thousands of thousands, millions. Pomim hateves, the goodness that you do for us. So in other words, even the level 2, which is already a high level, because the eye is now seeing like the sun and the moon, even that does not compare to Atzmus, which is the source of all light, and the source of the Moir, that's even higher, like we talked before, the Helam Atzmi. The level of Atzmus that's even higher than all revelation, and even the source of revelation, because Moir still indicates that it's a luminary, that's a source for the Oir. So here you have how high the neshama ultimately elevates. Of course, this is la'asad love. Even ve'eneinu me'ires, keshemesh kirech, in a consistent way, is la'asad love. But here's even a higher third level.
This is higher than Helem or Atzmi, no?
Or maybe it's the Helam Atzmi.
Atzmus is not higher than that?
Atzmus is everything. But we're talking about which level of neshama. We learned that neshama is rooted in Helam Atzmi, Shmaya Atzmi, which is like it's what's one with Atzmus, obviously.
Are you taking questions now?
I would wait one more paragraph.
Okay.
Because this idea will be finished in the next paragraph. Well, not finished, but I would just do one more paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
So, Beloshen Hadrush, Memori Admur Azok is Shom Omet Tavsamach. Now, the actual language of the Maimon of the Alter Rebbe, which is page 460, again, you can look it up. Quote, V'zeu al achas afilu al nes echad. And that's the meaning al achas. What means one? He says one compared to tens of thousands, millions, and so on. Of even one nes, one miracle, einon maspikim lahedes. That's still not enough to acknowledge Atzmus. Ma'achar shanes hu ora achas ma'alfei alofim sheba Atzmus elikus. So even though a miracle is a great thing, but what's one miracle compared It's only one reflection of the tens of thousands of levels that are rooted in Atzmus Elikus, Shayachal Lahavis Bruyim Ve'elamis. All the tens of thousands of levels that he could have created. So even though you come to a great level, like your eye sees like the sun, it's a miracle, meaning it's not the natural eye, that means it reaches that level, that's still only achas compared to everything Atzmus was able to achieve. Ilu, quote, that's one quote. Next quote, Ilu ve'einenu me'iris keshemesh yireach. Afilu la'achri aliyas ha'einayim lebchinas moyer. Even when the eyes elevate to the level of moyer, like the sun and the moon, they're me'iris hagdelim. They're luminaries. Im kol zeh, quote, Einon maspikim lahedis al achas me'elef, is still not enough to acknowledge one of thousand. Pirush hamshachas hanes k'mesha kosav milifnei oden chulei eretz al yena k'mesha u'ba'atzmus yizbarach l'cha levadecha. That compared to Atzmus, he alone, sharigam hamoyer oisa v'yotzer yetzer ha'me'eres. Because even the moyer God created, like we say, yetzer ha'me'eres, the one that shaped, that formed the luminaries. That means the one who formed it is higher than the moyer. So as much as moyer is higher than oyer, Atzmus is higher than moyer. And that's where the elevation takes place. Sham Omer Tov Samach Aleph. And this is from a quote from the Maimer there, Alter Rebbe's Maimer, page 461. Okay, here I'll stop for any questions.
Atzmus is higher than Moel. That's something new.
It's not new at all. There's many Maimonim of the Rebbe Rashab says you can't be Magdir Atzmus as a Moyer because he has no definition. Atzmus is not just a Moyer. He's higher than being a Moyer. He created the Moyer. You never heard that before?
So the
Because a Moyer
Neshama,
means he's defined by giving off Oyer. He is a Moyer also, but he's not defined or limited by being a Moyer. He's higher than being a Moyer.
is the Torah Moel or the Torah is oil?
The Torah is Torah Oyer, but it's rooted in the Moyer.
And the Neshama is rooted in Atzmus, correct?
In Helama Atzmi, Shmoya Atzmi. That's the language in Ayin Beis.
My question comes back to this issue of the root of the neshama. I know it's somewhat tangential, but we are talking about this, the neshama rising to its root, the asid lavo, and having the capacity to be to itself be amar, not just to see, but to also essentially project, to illuminate. That's the word. That's what it says. I mean, in Enumeros.
And even higher than that.
Okay, so my question is, and I'm trying not to process or be too literal here, but if we say that the root of the Shama is the Helam Ha'atzmi, Helam is a concealment. It's not illuminating. But if we say it becomes a Ma'or, you're saying it is illuminating. So I'm confused by these light mashalim, or these light references to light or the absence of light.
So there you have. That's why I gave the sources, and it's discussed directly by the Rebbe Rashab in Ayin Beis, Volume 3. If you look at page 25, the last paragraph, on line 2, I write Helama Atzmi Shmoya Atzmi, and I give 4 different pages: 1452, 1471, 1482. I'm sorry, not 14. 1252, 1271, 1282. Actually 5. 1407 and 1408 and 1415. He discusses there relatively with explanation what you're asking. The answer is obvious. Atzmus has everything. Helam and Gilui. So why can't the Neshama have everything? God has the power to conceal, and he has the power to reveal. Helam Atzmi, by the way, doesn't mean concealment. It means the core of concealment, the root of it. Meaning it's not defined by Gilui. That's what it really means.
Thank you.
And he
Yeah.
also has the power to express himself in a revealed way. And we want both. Remember, I keep talking about etzem begili. So Atzmus is both a moyer, but he's also beyond being a moyer. The neshama begins concealed in this world, but slowly it starts revealing alakus with the help and support of Torah, etc., and the other enayim, enei ha'eda, enei Hashem, and so on. And then it reaches a level that's beyond Gilui, and that itself it reveals. So it's the revelation of that which is beyond revelation, if you wish.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that was brilliant. I really appreciate that. That was.
The
I'll
first
go
time you
check
heard
out.
that ever here?
Well, not look. It's like we've said many times. You have to be machader
No,
over
no, I have no
these.
problem. Just wondering if it was registered before, because I did say it many times. I'm just wondering. I know these things
Yeah.
take time to fully process. I
I
got it.
I do recall you articulating those elements. We certainly learned those pages in depth um, a couple of times, frankly. But the synthesis that you just explained didn't. At least I don't remember having that light bulb go off in
Okay.
my head. Yeah.
Okay, just keep in mind, my essay was not meant to write a summary of Ayin Beis. My essay came to speculate on the ending of Ayin Beis that the Rebbe Rashab did not write. So I only cite that which is necessary to help continue where the Hemshech stops. So obviously, I do give a summary of Ayin Beis in the beginning of the essay, and throughout the essay, I refer to themes. Just keep in mind that this essay was not meant to summarize the ideas of Ayin Beis. It's meant to give us the continuation, which obviously requires us to go back through the themes. Just want you to understand what I did, what I didn't do.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's just something gets said. I don't recall learning or it conflicts with something I do recall. It gets confused. But no,
No
thank
problem,
you.
no problem.
Yeah.
That's why you see how many page numbers I offer here.
Yes.
Because I want people to be able to go and reach and trace it back to the source. Even if I don't spell it out in the essay, that is, I still want to give the sources so people can go back and say, oh, this is where, the corresponding pages.
Thank you. I will go
That's all.
check it out. Thank you very much.
I still think, I know similar you said it, but I still think that Atzmus is higher than Helem or Atzmi.
Atzmus is higher than Elam Atzmi, but there's only one Atzmus. A neshama is not Atzmus. A neshama is called a neshama. It's a chelik elikam. It doesn't say it, neshama is Atzmus. There's only one God. Hashem Echad. Remember that.
Of course.
Anyway.
But the
Ayin
neshama
Beis
is mushtash in Atzmus, not in
Well,
Helem.
you're saying what you're saying. The Ayin Beis calls it Helema Atzmi, Shmoya Atzmi. That's the language he uses. Tachteina Shebamaitzel, as was mentioned. Because a neshama is and Atzmus are not synonymous. You can't say a neshama is God and God is a neshama. Let me put it that way. Mushrish is not the same thing as saying it's the same thing. Yes, where is it mushrish and Atzmus? In the highest levels, but it's not this one and the same. Or else you have a problem because there's only one God.
Chelik mamish, the Alter Rebbe writes.
Chelik, but chelik is not kol. Chelik is not the whole thing. Even when we say tefes bechelik min ha'etzem, at the tefes bekulei, still tefes bechelik.
How was your evening out, Gabby? I'm sorry you had to rush off.
Okay.
I want to clarify. You used to say that neshama, when it come to this world, became dark. But right now, you just said that it's shorish in Halem of Atzmus.
What's for you?
That means
And this is your grandpa. And this is for grandma.
in a dark. It's in a sherish. It's dark.
I didn't say the word dark. I said it's beyond revelation.
We used to say I'm dark but beautiful. Yes.
Okay, so what's your question?
It's not only neshama became dark when it come to this world. It's in the sherish, in a
Okay, that's why it can come down into the dark world, because it's rooted in a place that's higher than revelation. But then you need to reveal that itself needs to be revealed.
So we have this root in darkness, and it gives us a chance to fix the world.
That's why he said, yes, that the way to reach that is by transforming the darkness of this world. You reach that level of Helam Atzmi, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Since we started late, I'll go a little further here. We'll go continue next paragraph. Are there any other questions? Just 1 second. I want to get a tissue. 1 second. Okay. I've given a number of times the example to make things a little more palatable. You build a home for your family, for your children. You send them into this home and you tell them, I want you to turn it into a dira b'tachtenim, a home for me, for God. I'm giving you Torah, giving you mitzvahs. Obviously, you are the neshama because you're my DNA coming from the Father. And that is the key thing to keep in mind. The Eibishter is like the Father who creates a world and a dark world and sends his neshama that the Alter Rebbe calls, Banim, the Torah calls, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. We are children of God. B'ni b'cheri Yisrael. My son, my firstborn is Yisrael. I send them to this world and the neshama comes down below. It's rooted in the very DNA of the source. It has the capacity to come down even in a dark world because it's rooted in Helam Atzmi. And that's why in this Helam, it can do something that no one else can do. Malachim can't do this. The Torah can't even do it. Mitzvahs can't do it. It's only a neshama beguf that can learn Torah and be Mekayim mitzvahs and illuminate and transform the darkness into light. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, to the point that when we unite and we reveal the divine unity in this world, it causes even the Nefesh Habamis, the Cheshech, and the world to be transformed to V'haftas Hashem L'kecha B'chol Levavcha B'shnei Yitzarech. That even the animal soul understands. Only a neshama can do that. But it needs help. It needs support. Because in this world, it's a dark world. So we're given the Torah, and we're given mitzvahs, and the malachim are helping us, and the Einei Ha'edah, the leaders of every generation, help us. And they help us as we grow. The neshama goes higher and higher, and is accessing ultimately the highest place, because that's where the whole thing began. Seif Maaseh b'machshava tchila, as the Rebbe, Mittler Rebbe especially explained, that's dafke down below. And dafke Torah Shabbat mitzvahs that implement it. But it's the neshama that does everything, because it's the central player in the performance, in the learning of Torah and the performance of mitzvahs. And then it accesses, like we're learning here, level by level. First, it becomes like a moyer, like a source of light. And it even illuminates Torah itself. Then it becomes connected even to the levels that are higher than light altogether. The levels of Atzmus that is higher than moyer and higher than Helam and Gilui. Like he said, higher than Shemesh Yireach, Yetzah Ma'eris. So the example, I think, to keep in mind is, again, the building of the home, and you have all the pieces there. The neshamas are the children, Torah mitzvahs are the tools and instruments, and they fulfill, that's how you fulfill and realize the kavanah elyon. I've given this moshel many times. What were you saying? Sorry?
I found very, very hopeful that idea that neshama embedded with darkness. That means it has immunity against darkness from the beginning. And
Yes,
that
that's correct.
immunity, that darkness from the source, give her a chance to resist darkness here.
And furthermore, transform darkness.
Yes, yeah, immunity is supposed to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. And that's a long explanation. Shcheirani, I am dark, Vinova, but beautiful. Rooted, that's the neshama below, saying this to the neshama above. That above, the neshama is not dark. It's illuminated. Below, it's darkened, but beautiful because it reaches the highest levels in all the way in Atzmus. Okay. The question is, do we continue here? I like to continue, but it's
A
I'll
little
go
more,
a little
Rabbi?
further.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
No, I was just voting for a little more learning.
Okay, I'll continue a little more here. Next paragraph. Al pi hamavur, according to what is explained, b'dibra maschel, bir inyan v'neinu me'ires. This mimer we've been learning, we've been reviewing rather. V'neinu me'ires, my eyes will shine like the sun and the moon. Yesh lahaven eid nekudi ikris behemshech terav. According to this mimer, we'll understand another important point in Ayin Beis. And that is what? The hachiluk ben amshachas tere er mamayel lamata va'alo mamat lamayla ba'avedis hatfila al yidei neshamas. The difference between amshach of tere er mamayel lamata, which begins on page 1350 in volume 3, after 550 pages of the halo mamat lamayla in tefillah through the neshamas. So this comes to really tie together when the Rebbe Rashab says, "V'nirali levayir." He wants to explain the whole inyan with Oirariya, based on this Maimer V'nei Meires. It comes to explain a fundamental theme in Ayin Beis, the difference between Hamshach and Teirem and Mailamata and Halah through the Shamas and Tefillah. And here's the explanation. But Maimer Zeh, in this V'nei Meires, Sham Amatav Samach Beis Ve'elach, on page 462 and on. Ubaruch bedrush admuram soy, and at length elaborated on. By the Mittler Rebbe, Mavur, it's explained, sheyesh beis b'chinas istaklus enayim. Two levels of the gaze of the eye, of the eyes, the level of Riyah, two levels in Riyah. This is very fascinating. I remember when I found this, I was taken by it because it literally, you could see, I mean, again, we don't know for sure, but there's a bad cold, I'm sorry. We can't know for sure, but when you read it in the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe, it like literally matches the themes that the Rebbe Rashab is discussing. She says two levels in the gaze of the eyes. Milmata Lamaila. There's a gaze from the bottom up. This we haven't learned before. This is specifically from the Maimer Ve'eneinu Me'ires. Kumo histaklus hamakabel ela mashpia. Like when a student or a recipient gazes at his teacher. You know, when you're learning with your teacher, there's the concept of looking at your teacher. He longs and he yearns for the hashpah. So it's not just he's looking at him. It's like you want to receive. There's a certain like gaze You could say even loving gaze, that you're really appreciating your teacher and you want to receive from him. That's the expression in the Maimon. Mitzapa umiyachal. Mitzapa means like tzipoy, to wait, longing, yearning, or waiting for, but more than just passive waiting. It's like an active waiting. And miyachal el hashpa. K'moshe Kosav, like the pasuk says, Einei kol elecha yishbaru. Einei kol elecha yishbaru. The eyes of all are glusten. How do you say yishbaru? Are yearning for you. Lekabel mekeach hariya atzmis. And you're looking at your teacher to receive from the core vision, atzmis, that's coming from the mashpia. That's one type of gaze. There's another one, momayla lamata. That's from the makabel to the mashpia, the first one. The second is from the mashpia to the makabel. Histakus mashpia ela makabel. The gaze of the teacher or the transmitter to the recipient. Shemamshich koyach hariyah ha'atzmis el ayin b'klei makabel. That he's mamshich through his gaze from the koyach hariyah atzmis within him to the eye, the clay in the container of the recipient. He calls that b'chinas shel sheishis yamim. This is called the Eir of the 6 days of creation, which was a unique Eir. That light was a light you were able to see from one end of the earth to the other. In other words, it doesn't have the limitations of regular vision. And that's where the mashpia is mashpia to the makabel. So you have the mamata l'mayla, the makabel to the mashpia to the makabel. Umamshich levayir, and the Maimari continues to explain, page 465, right? But omnam, these are 2 levels. Yesh madrege shlishis. There's a 3rd level. And that's the level, b'chinas lo yilecha ed hashemesh la'er yom. It says in the Novi, the prophet says, that la'asad lavi, in the future, the shemesh, the sun, will no longer be needed to create the daylight. Ki'im havaya yilecha la'er elam la'asad lavi. Because Hashem himself will be the source of all light. Today, Hashem does it through sun. We won't have any longer the need for the sun to illuminate the earth, because Hashem himself, Havai himself, will be La'er Elam. Kimavur Le'il Sham, like he explains in the Maimer, the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, more detail. If you look in the Maimer, he talks about that. Who Kamoshel Hanal, that's like the above mentioned example. Bistaklus Kleya Ayin Lahachzik Es HaShafel. So he gives an example there that when a person who's like a mashpia, in a sense you're giving tzedakah, charity, to support someone who's impoverished, someone that is oppressed, a shuffle. So you says there, you look at him, and your look also elevates him, elevates his spirit, inspires him. Sheyachzikenu b'istaklusei alav, l'teiv. He strengthens him. When you look at someone who's in need, and his spirit is broken, and you're helping him, but your look itself is with compassion and with love. The Alter Rebbe explains this mashal as an example of the second histaklus, the mashpia strengthening the makabel by looking at him with a good eye. Or the ene, that means to have open eyes. Gamkein. Ela shehi hamshachet derech ha'ayin v'lo sheyisu v'yagbiyas ha'ayin ela atzmis. In other words, he's not elevating him to his level of atzmis. It's all going through the eye by having a loving gaze, a compassionate gaze. He's elevating him. V'yuvan zeh, im mashakasa b'mokem achad be'inyan koyach hamayla man, we'll understand that based on what's explained elsewhere, the power of halas man, mayim nukfin. When the Aveda from below inspires, the Hainu Shiyeh Eine Kol Elecha, like he said, Yishbet, that when the Makabel is looking at the Mashpia, V'zeu ve'neinu me'ires, Pirush, Av Shiyeh Avaya Lecha Le'er Elam, Canal. And this is the meaning: the eye will shine, the eyes will shine, my eyes will shine, that even though Hashem will be the light to the world, not the sun, but Hashem himself, Afal Pikein Einon Maspikim Lehedis Lecha Latzmusei Ki Kamei Shavin Hamoyer Ima Oyer Vidal. Nevertheless, it's still not the highest level, because the highest level is where the Moyer and the Oyer are all equal. Basically, what we learned before in the previous paragraph, I quoted Alter Rebbe, who's saying it in his own language. It's a little dense and has to be reviewed a few times, but essentially he's saying that the third level is a level that's higher than the Mashpia and the Makabel. Mashpia looking at the Makabel, or I would say the Makabel looking at the Mashpia Mamat Lamayla. Then there's the Mashpia looking at the Makabel Mamayla Lamato. And that's still, however, through the eye. It's still a look. Then there's a level where you reach the third level, Atzmus, where Moira and Oyer are all equal. And that's the third level, Ein anu maspikim lahedis lecha. Einenu me'iris kishemesh yireach is a result of the Mashpia Makabel coming closer to each other. So even the Makabel starts seeing it also from the perspective of the Mashpia. But the third level is where you reach a level that's higher than both and unites everything together. So this is very clearly, let me see if I say that. So I'll read one more paragraph. Kalemer, page 27. Kalemer, I sum it up.
Is this level the Helem or Atzmi, the third level that you mentioned now?
What's that? Let me just read the next paragraph, then I'll stop. Kalemer, shebe'in hariyah yes gimel dargis. And the inyan of Riyah, of vision, there are three levels. There are three levels. Here we are. The power of vision that's limited, that manifests within the vessel of the eye, that's limited, and there it needs an outside light to support it. Siyua. 2. Etzem koyach hariyah, she'ein lei hagbolis. The very core power of vision that has no limitations, and on this is we say, Ve'neinu me'iris, v'alzeh nemar, Ve'neinu me'iris kishemesh kireir, bli siyua me'er zelosei. The eyes themselves see without the support of another outside light. 3, Mokir kol al eshal etzem koyach hariyah b'atzmus yizbarach. The mokir of the very core of vision in Atzmus, shekamei shavin hamoyer ima'er, where before him, Moyer and Oyer are equal. So it's not just a Moyer and Oyer are all equal. He's higher than both because he created them both. Now, the truth is, I'd rather not stop here, but there's a lot going on. So the next paragraph, I'm going to explain that the first two levels are like the difference between Tefillah and Torah. Mamat l'mayla, mamayla l'mata. And the third level is the miyachid, both Yechudim, of Yechud Tata and Yechud Elah. That's the next paragraph, briefly, which is the end of Hemshech Ayin Beis that we have before us. And that's how it all connects together. So we'll read that tomorrow. I'm going to stop here. Any questions?
That means that this higher level with Miyached Kol HaYichudim, this is the Helem Ha'atzmi, and Atzmus is even higher than that.
You keep asking the same question. Atzmus is higher than everything. There's only one God. Not sure what you're asking me. Whether Atzmus is higher than Helem Atzmi? Yes, Atzmus is higher than Helem. Atzmus is I'm not sure what you mean by Atzmus. If you mean Atzmus, ultimate Atzmus, built in Metzias Nimtza, is higher than anything. You can't even describe him with anything. What are you trying to establish?
I'm trying to understand something. I know that we spoke about it many times. When we are saying that the Eibishter is Ave, this is referring to Atzmus or to
Why don't you
the
tell me what you
level
mean by Atzmus? Define
by Atzmus.
Atzmus
I
and I'll
mean,
answer your question. Atzmus
Bilti
has many
Metzius.
meanings.
So I
What?
mean the Atzmus of Bilti Metzius Nimtzo.
Okay, what about it?
Is when we say that this Ave HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are we talking about this level of Bilti Metzius Nimtzo?
It doesn't
And
say
is
Chassidus never says explicitly that is that level, but why not?
I agree. I think that it's talking,
Okay, but
it's talking about this.
okay.
I wanted to hear what you
I
say
mentioned
about
to you a
it.
number of times in Teda Shalom, he says, when we speak about Atzmus, we mean Eir Atzmi, because nobody can speak about Atzmus really in its pure form because there's no words that you can describe Atzmus. So when you're
We
speaking
cannot,
about Atzmus, you're already speaking about it with some form of your understanding of it.
you're right, but we're talking about the whole purpose of creation was
Okay,
that
but
we should
fine.
be connected to that level, to that, not level, to
Okay, but
this
we've been
Atzmus.
spoiled when we use the word Atzmus. It's used so often that people stop appreciating what it is.
You're right.
Atzmus, so you know that it says Eidei Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum B'chlolis is called Eid Atzmusei?
That's not Atzmus, what you're saying.
No, but it says in Chassidus that it's called Eid Atzmus. Atzmusei is Baruch. Because before we got spoiled and we started speaking about Lifnei Tzimtzum was considered to be Atzmus by all the Mukabalim and even the Rabbeim. It's because Chassidus, in a way, spoiled us by talking about these levels. So we said, what's Eidei Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum? Atzmus is higher than that. So you have to understand when you say these words, what are we talking about exactly? Eidei Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum doesn't leave room for existence. It's all about Atzmus there. So what do you mean by Atzmus? Instead, there's not even Eir Lifnei Tzimtzum. We only call it Eir because everything there is Nichlel, is Kol Be'etzem.
You are right,
after
but the bottom line is that the whole entire creation and explanation in Chassidus is to reach. That's what.
No, you could say it's Eidei Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum because it's Eir HaKol B'Atzmusei, and everything starts from there. Who says you have to go higher than that? It's only, again, you're saying it because you heard it. It's used a lot. But the truth is, it needs explanation.
Because if you don't say it, the whole recreation is no need. If you don't say that this is Nagia to this,
But the Atzmus means Eid Ein Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum. Eid HaKol B'Atzmusei is one. It's like Shmei Kodem Kikadmusei. It's all kol. It's like the Eid HaKol B'Shemesh.
Are you finished, Rabbi Title?
yeah.
Okay. I'm having a difficulty understanding the notion of Makor Shel Etzem Koach Hariyah. I guess I can understand, like, because Etzem itself is like a Makor. It's the essence. What root or what source can there be for Etzem except what I'm hearing? And please explain if I understand it. That the source of the essence of the power of vision need not necessarily relate to light. Like you're saying, Atzmus is both it's both illuminator and light, and even beyond that, non-illumination, because you can't define Atzmus. It's both revelation and concealment, or the lack of revelation. Is that what this means by the Makor?
It's actually very simple. Let's go back to the Moshel. Etzem Koach Hariyah is the power of vision within your soul. The Hispashtus Koach Hariyah is the way the vision manifests within the physical eye.
Mm-hmm.
So, who created the soul? Who created the power of vision in the soul? Etzem Koach Hariyah is not Etzem. It's only etzem keicharia within the soul, the power, the core power to see. God created that too. So yes, there's the vision in the physical eye that has its limitations. The nefesh has an unlimited power to see, and there's a creator that created both of them.
Yeah. You always make it so simple. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because you always have to go back not to mechanics and to technical. You think of the muscle that he's been using here to explain it all. So the same idea.
What, you mean the sun?
The etzem nefesh is not Atzmus. Etzem nefesh was created by Atzmus. It's much higher than the nefesh itself, obviously, and the faculties. But at the end of the day, these are all levels. Like, when you say the human being, are we the skeleton of your body, your bones structure? Is it the nerves? Are the muscles? And then you go deeper, there's the soul. Then there's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chay, yechida. See what I'm saying? And you keep going deeper and deeper. Keiches gluyim, keiches nelomim, keiches hiyulim, keiches atzmim, keiches haklulim ben nefesh, nefesh nesa keiches. These are all levels that are part of the process. And the same, going back to Rab Shlomo's question, same thing with Elikus. Elikus is everywhere. But there's Mamala Kalam and there's Sevav Kalam. And there's that which is higher than both. Then there's how that is in Asiya and Yetzira and in Bria and Natsilis and higher than Natsilis. Then there is how it's all Bifnei HaTzimtzum. So it's all coming, it's all Elikus. But the question is how filtered is it, if you wish? The gradations, the reduction of the Eir. How much has it been reduced or diminished as it's coming down? And the closer you get to the source, the more etzem it is. The closer you go downward, the more islapshus it is, the more manifest it is. And you want to grow level to the highest levels.
Well, so yes, now to join
the neshama, in contrast to existence really associates with God as a creator, where he manifests at Yehi Eir, Yehi Rakia, Mamala Kalam primarily. Even though there's also Sevav Kalam. The neshama, like we spoke about Teira before the Tzimtzum, is coming to us all the way from basically bringing us direct orders from the source code in the core. That's what a neshama is. And it's the highest levels. It also comes down, etc.
So to join Rav Techel's questions and my questions, and then you're going to get into the yichud of yichudim. What does it mean for the soul to partake of that unity of these separate unities, das elyon and das tachton? I mean, it's hard to imagine a soul, and then it gets to Rab Shlomo's question. It seems like you're actually partaking of Atzmus, and maybe you are in a sense. You're not God, but you're part. The neshama is coming from there, so you're partaking of it. But what does that mean in practical terms? It almost seems like
we've been learning this throughout the whole Hemsh Ayin Beis. It means to daven, say Shema, contemplate on Achdus Hashem, make sure that contemplation is explained to the Nefesh Habamis. There's the whole Avodas Hashem. That's tefillah.
I understand. No. I hear.
Then there's 1 second. Their mitzvah, Teira Eir, each one revealing different levels as we continue to grow. Each one on our commensurate to our level.
Yeah, I hear loud and clear what's the formula or the recipe to accomplish this, but I don't. And maybe it doesn't matter. But I think it does matter. But what does that? Let's say you do all those things. Let's say God's willing. I see
you grow from day to day, from level to level. What do you mean? Well, that's what Aveda does. We call it Birur,
of course.
Zichuch, Ha'adam v'Ha'olam.
I understand
ourselves and the world. What's the?
I'm not even asking any questions about that. That is a given. That is understood.
So
but maybe.
Tell me.
Well, first of all, I don't think any of us makes up. Maybe a tzaddik is going to reach that yichud of yichudim.
Everybody at their level. No one's asking you to be a tzaddik. You have to reach whatever you're capable of reaching. That's all that's asked of you.
I'm able to contemplate the unity of God and everything, that God is everything. It revealed,
Every one of
concealed.
us, everyone
Yeah.
has the mitzvah to do so according to our level. You're not asked to do it on my level or someone else's level. You have to learn chassidus and achieve it as best as you can. What's the problem with that?
There's no problem whatsoever with that. I'm just trying to contemplate. It's one thing to understand the unity of God in everything. It's another thing to say that you can partake of this level that is above expression.
What? You never heard of growing? One day, the things you didn't understand, let's say last year, today you can understand.
You make things
I'm not
so,
sure what
yeah.
you're asking me.
No, you're answering me well. I think
I'm
I'm
being very practical. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking to be someone else. You don't have to be anyone else. Be yourself and make the ultimate effort that you can make in growing, and you continue to grow. Like, have you feel you've grown in the last few years learning Ayin Beis?
Well, of course, I'm approaching this from a level above those things you're saying. I get all that, and that's very helpful. But like, whatever.
Itzhak, can I say something? I think,
Yeah, please.
and I think Rabbi has already alluded to this, but it's like the difference between us and Tzaddik, as the Rabbi said, we're not supposed to be like to their level. Everybody's to their own. But I think in any of our lives, there are moments that we feel so connected and we feel this. But the Tzaddik is able to have that all the time. That's, I think, the difference between us and a true Tzaddik is that us, we have moments. We have moments in our lives that you are able to feel, even if it's for 5 seconds or 2 seconds, this unity. But it's not something that we could sustain, even though we would love to, but we can't.
I think Itzhak meant what result can we see in our role of co-creator? Where is the result that we can feel, can see as a co-creator, as a God's partner in creation? That's what you mean?
I think it's in part what I mean. I think more doctrinally or more technically, I'm trying to understand what it means to participate, to be part of a level that where the illuminator or the ma'or, the source of light, and the light itself are one. It sounds great for Atzmus, and I get it, right? From that perspective, I can see God being that way, but I can't see myself at a level where where source of light and light itself are one. I can't wrap my head around that. That's my question. And one has to be able to do that, or else this is just theory. It's not practical. So the avoda, if all it really means is the avoda that Rabbi Jacobson has explained to us infinite time, not infinite, but countless times, then okay, that's what it is. But I'm having a hard time connecting those practical efforts to do avodas Hashem and to actually manifest the achdus and the yichud of Elikus in this world, with reconciling all that with what does it mean to be participating at a level that is both ma'or and or. Maybe it's anyways. I just can't connect those two.
It's because you are lack of bittul. Just try to.
Well, I'll give you a practical example, and I'm not surprised really, but I am a little, because I talk about this every chassidus applied. Is I discuss this, how you manifest in real life all these levels. So there are times where there's a distinction between, let's say, a mashpia and makabel. Let's just use the example he's giving here, teacher and student, and obviously the student is a student that was receiving from the teacher, and the teacher is giving the student, and there has to be all the respect necessary and the boundaries necessary because of that hierarchy and structure, right? But then as Simchas Torah, they come together, and the mashpia and makabel dance together. If someone walks in, they don't know the difference between the mashpia and the makabel, because they're all dancing with the same Torah, with the same joy. And as a matter of fact, the makabel sometimes can be even more joyous. So there are many examples where the structures of things no longer are relevant at that moment. That still doesn't mean there isn't a role for the structure. But you can give different examples when you're sitting with people and there's a certain Ahavas Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael, which transcends the distinctions, their class distinctions, and so on. These are examples of accessing, like he says in Tanya, Av Echad L'Kulana, one Father we all have, and we don't know whose soul is greatest because they're all one within him. That would be one simple example of this third level.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. Really, I get it. Thank you so much. I really do understand it better now. Thank you.
Okay.
These things that come so easy to you are really hard for someone that hasn't.
Well, the method is to keep in mind that everything should be asked in that context. What is a practical application of every level that we learn about? When you ask that question, you ultimately find the answers.
Yeah, well, I was asking you. You gave the answer. Thank you. Or answers plural. Thank you very much. That, pardon the pun, but this was very illuminating.
Yep,
In
that's just one manifestation, by the way. It's not the only.
I understand that. Yes.
simple word, you said that if you want to understand it with seichel, there's no way. Like Rabbi Yitzchok said, you cannot understand in our eyes how more is connected to oil. It's one thing. But there is something which is not understanding. It's called reuso de libo, something, an inner thing that is above understanding. And in this level, you have it. It's not that you understand it, but it's you. It's part of you, and you have it.
Also
Yeah,
beautiful, Rav
that's
Shlomo.
another way of putting it. That's good. Yeah.
Also beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful. Really. These are
Okay, good.
deep beauties of Chassidus.
Okay, good. So let me stop the recording here. Where are we in the page? Anybody has it open?
Yeah, we're at the top of page 27.
Top? We didn't go down. Only the top? Okay. Top of
I think.
27.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because that's the last lines were that's what I'm asking about. Makor shel etzem koach hariyah be'atzmus yisbarach shekamei shavin said that kamei shavin hamaor imaor. That's what I was
Okay.
asking about.
So top of 27, you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay, let me just make sure here. Yeah, you're right.